Lam Research, another banger quarter.
You like that? A banger. Thanks for that, Shannon. That's good stuff.
Before we break down all of the nitty gritty, we're going to give a quick shout out to fiscal.ai. We created a number of slides with Fiscal, and Fiscal is who powers our data over at chipstockinvestor.com. Fiscal is fantastic at getting the numbers in almost immediately after a company reports and updating the KPIs, like this one right here for Lam Research, their systems revenue and their customer support and other revenues, which we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Make sure you check out fiscal.ai, and if you use our special link, you get 15% off any paid plan. Pretty good deal. If you want to make great financial visuals for your investment research, including key performance indicators like this one, make sure you check it out. Fiscal.ai/CSI gets you that 15% off.
I don't know that we need to dwell on this too much. We've been banging the drum here on Lam Research for a long time. Lam fits into this section of the semiconductor industry right here, the wafer fab equipment company. Historically, they've provided a lot of equipment to manufacture memory chips. They've obviously diversified significantly beyond that. But now that the memory market is so hot, they're starting to swing back towards that.
And it's a great place to be right now. So if you like to look at NVIDIA's 5-layer cake, which looks suspiciously similar to our 5 key areas of the semiconductor and electronics manufacturing supply chain, Lam Research would generally fall into the semiconductor layer, right there just above energy. And specifically within that layer, as Casey said, wafer fab equipment, also a lot of advanced packaging happening these days. Lam is a critical supplier of equipment that helps with deposition, etch, and different types of advanced packaging, including wafer level bonding. So if you like things like high bandwidth memory, advanced NAND flash memory, Lam is there.
Now let's take a look at the high-level numbers for Lam. This is Q3 fiscal year 2026. Revenue came in at just over their expected guidance, $5.84 billion, up 9.3% and about 24% year over year. Earnings per share, $1.47, beat the expectation, and the gross margin almost 50%, expanding just a little bit there. Operating margin up as well, and did some capital returns, repurchased $796 million in shares and paid out some dividends, $326 million. Nick, I don't know if you noticed this, but you can now choose your colors on Fiscal. So I made it match.
I like it. I like the color coordination there.
You're welcome, everyone.
Okay, so we're back to this KPI for Lam Research. Their systems revenue, the sale of capital equipment to companies like TSMC, as well as the memory IDMs, Micron, SK Hynix, Samsung, and so on. That is the driving force. And kind of linking this back to the last point you just made about the share repurchases, even though Lam is back at all-time highs again, all-time revenue once again, they are still repurchasing stock. Management was not yet ready to call a top in this growth cycle. And that jives with some of the research provided by other companies that participate in this level of the market in fab equipment and packaging, as well as general industry research from the likes of semi.org that expect there to be new records set in equipment sales this year as well as into 2027. So Lam backing up that belief with some stock buybacks.
And a new record in their customer support segment. That's in that light blue color, over $2 billion this quarter for that segment, helping their customers manage their systems, making the most use of their clean room space. A nice growth segment for Lam as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be an important segment when there is eventually another downturn in equipment sales. This is one of the reasons Lam Research outperformed during the previous downturn a few years ago, because that customer support business group makes up such a large percentage of their revenue overall.
And here's another great visual from Fiscal. Illustrating how profitable Lam Research has become, you can see that their earnings per share have continued to increase, reaching new records in this most recent quarter, and net income at all-time highs. Now let's go back to last quarter and take a look at their December quarter revenue mix so that we can compare what's happening right now here in the most recent quarter.
In December 2025, at that report, memory was still just over a third of the overall systems revenue makeup. And we'd called out that given that there was a memory shortage and suddenly the memory IDMs needed to expand capacity rapidly to meet data center demand this year, that number was probably going to change.
And it did.
And it did, up to 39%. And importantly, I think this number actually has a lot of room to run this year and next because the memory crunch is so severe, it's starting to affect other parts of the semiconductor industry. Most notably, smartphone demand is going to take a hit in 2026 because memory prices have gone up. The memory IDMs are reallocating some of their capacity to meet data center demand. So a lot of equipment is probably going to need to be sold to the memory IDMs to help make up for this lack of supply. So the memory makeup of Lam's overall mix, we think it's going to continue to rise.
And besides memory, one of the other factors that is driving growth at Lam is advanced packaging. They're on the far right side, they have packaging listed, and they said that the advanced packaging revenues are expected to grow over 50% in calendar year 2026.
Pretty cool. If you're looking for an advanced packaging investment, we talk a lot about Applied Materials being the leader there, but if you own Lam Research, you also get a bit of advanced packaging with that one too. So it's a twofer. We'll take it.
We'll take it. So let's talk about guidance for the upcoming quarter for Lam. For revenue, Lam expects $6.6 billion in revenue at the midpoint for the next quarter, which would be about a 28% revenue growth year over year. And just took one quick comment from CEO Timothy Archer on the wafer fab equipment spending expected in this year. They previously had said that they expected about $135 billion, and now they're raising that to about $140 billion annually.
And along with that, higher revenue, higher profit margins as well. A lot to still like with Lam Research here at this point. Last slide from fiscal.ai. Quarterly revenue is in purple all the way up through the March 2026 quarter. And then starting there in blue is Wall Street analysts' expectations for quarterly revenue, starting with the June 2026 quarter. And you notice leading up to this report, the consensus was about 6 to 6.1 billion in revenue. Casey just showed you the guidance pegged at 6.6 billion at the midpoint. Analysts are now probably scrambling to update all of these revenue and also thus earnings expectations for Lam Research over the course of the next year and a half. Lam Research has run up a lot, especially in the last year. It has basically become our largest semiconductor fab equipment holding, outpacing Applied Materials, which was our original investment like a decade plus ago. Pretty incredible run for the company, and we're happy to continue holding.
Thanks again to our friends over at Fiscal. Make sure you check out fiscal.ai/CSI to get 15% off any paid plan. And this presentation is part of a write-up that we're doing over at chipstockinvestor.com for semi-insiders, so make sure you check that out as well. And if you're wondering what is happening with some of the other Fab 5 providers like ASML, make sure you check out this video right here we recently did on their new tech.